Now to an incredibly enjoyable case of internal turmoil at the ABC. And it starts with a bit of sneering about a comedian who had the whole country in stitches 40 years ago.
Now we turn to this bizarre hit from the glorious 1980s.
I said to me, mate Al, mate, where can Marsu be, Al? He said she can go out back with a fella. She's probably seen a cockatoo.
If you can believe it, Austentatious's 1983 punfest Australiana enjoyed 8 weeks at the top of the charts. And for the past few years, he's been on a 40th anniversary tour in pubs and clubs across the country, with ABC Radio rolling out the welcome mat in local interviews like this.
40 years on, I'm still the king of comedy, mate. Travelling around, and I'm coming to Port Augusta, mate, the Flinders Hotel this Saturday night.
Ostentatious, whose real name is Sandy Gutman, has featured regularly on the ABC, celebrating his briefly famous monologue and spruiking his upcoming shows across the country.
You get the impression that Media Watch doesn't quite approve of Ostentatious. Perhaps they prefer the offensive, highly political and unfunny comedians who usually pop up on the national broadcaster. But this story focused on how the comedian claimed to be friends with the ABC chair, Kim Williams, and how he used that to his advantage.
When Gutman was annoyed at having been turned down by the ABC team at Port Pirie in South Australia, he telephoned Kim Williams, giving the ABC a ferocious spray and making unfounded allegations he was being denied interviews because he was Jewish. In response, Williams called the ABC's head of audio content, Ben Latimer, to say Gutman was having some trouble getting in touch with local radio. Latimer then passed a message down the line, making mention of Kim Williams having some sort of personal connection with Sandy Gutman, ultimately delivering a winning result for the ageing performer.
So what can people expect if they do come down to the show this Saturday in Port Augusta?
Well, it's a 36-hour comedy show.
Kind of interesting, isn't it? Who would have thought it? Kim Williams, himself a classical musician and composer who's chaired the Sydney Opera House Trust, pushing for his Aussie comedian mate. There were other instances, such as one outlined in this email from Williams to ABC executives.
Sandy, again. I am, of course, essentially on his side. Our people are often arrogant with talent. How often would someone like Ostentatious be in New England? Strange attitude. I know he can be demanding, but he is talent. I've included Donna because it's her patch. Donna, Ben can brief you if you need it. There's a backstory.
We know that Donna Field, copied into that email, was on extended leave, did not see this email at the time, and ultimately did nothing in response to Williams' request. But those in her reporting chain did. The result? The decision of ABC New England not to put Sandy Gutman to air was overruled. A week later, Ostentatious got his wish, and ABC New England Breakfast broadcast a nice little plug for his show that night.
I started stand-up comedy in 1981 at the Comedy Store.
And that's in Emmaville tonight.
They make it sound like Watergate, don't they? But this is a ripping yarn. The chair lining up interviews for a friend. Williams says the pair are merely acquaintances. And in a way, Williams is right. The ABC is too snobbish, and any local radio station ought to have 5 minutes to spruik a decent act coming to town. But meddling with such choices at the ABC, especially in writing, that's unwise to say the least. It is, after all, the ABC, a staff-run collective. And soon staff around the country were up in arms and feeding Media Watch.
The outraged South Australian staffer said they believe the ABC chair and some of his executives have failed in their duties.
If the chairperson has time to intervene and influence teams to conduct an interview about a comedian's regional tour, what else is he influencing?
It's not just on the front line of this organisation that people have been disturbed by the affair. The new managing director of the ABC, Hugh Marks, told us,
"The matters raised by Media Watch are important. I've been at the ABC a short time, but I am vigilant to ensure the proper delineation of responsibility between the board and management, and will act appropriately to ensure the best interests of the ABC, its people and audiences as we move forward.
It's a reminder of just how special the ABC is that Media Watch has been given free rein to investigate this imbroglio, in which the organisation's own chairman has suffered what I believe to have been a grave lapse of judgment.
Yeah, that's a bit much, isn't it? Media Watch praising itself for daring to challenge the chair. That's what the ABC staff have always done, railed against the chair and defied the board. Hell, they've even run a couple of managing directors out of the national broadcaster. Now, this is a fun yarn about not much at all, a comedian on regional radio, for heaven's sake. But it will stir up enmities at the ABC, that's for sure. The Journalists' Union is pushing for an independent inquiry, so watch this space. But it proves a couple of points, and that is that the ABC staff hate being instructed on what to do, even when it's something obvious and harmless. And it also shows that the ABC always prefers navel-gazing to real journalism. Because immediately before the Media Watch program last night, the ABC's flagship current affairs program ran a story about the two federal election contenders, which turned out to be just another hit job on Peter Dutton, just days out from the election.
Some First Nations leaders say this was part of a pattern for Peter Dutton when it comes to race.
Do you think that Peter Dutton has an issue with race?
We uncovered fresh details about the Dutton family's dealings and the people that they've done business with. A large proportion of the Dutton family's wealth comes from private childcare, often bought and sold through trusts.
Nothing from Media Watch about this piece that was fronted by Louise Milligan. You know, she ran a series of vicious, unfair and ultimately erroneous reports that helped lead to the conviction of the late Cardinal George Pell, who was later acquitted unanimously by the High Court. Milligan also fronted the character assassination of former Attorney General Christian Porter with an unverified historical rape claim. Milligan also had the ABC, that is taxpayers, pick up a legal bill of at least $150,000, including a defamation payout, because she'd slandered a Liberal MP on her private social media account. After all this, it's surprising that Milligan is still employed at the ABC, let alone allowed to front this kind of hit job on the opposition leader on the eve of an election. But then it's not our ABC, it's not your ABC. As you know, it's their ABC.